Well, it's a hard story increasingly to tell quickly, but we founded the company after leaving Microsoft, and we wanted to get into doing something small or something focused, and we'd always loved games. And so Chris Zimmerman approached me, and then the two of us went out and collected a sort of small band of people who wanted to try and go make games. We started making Nintendo games, made our first game on the Nintendo 64, Rocket.
Were you guys just kind of winging it back then? Did you
Yes.
have some...
Anything went, just kind of let your freak flag fly situation. My big contribution were things called smarks, which were smart sharks that would try and kill you. There was a Midway arcade in Rocket Robot on Wheels where you could throw balls into President's mouths to win, which I think is very patriotic, to give something back to your country.
And then we're fortunate enough to sign on with Sony after the success we'd had building that title. Not necessarily commercial success, but it was a successful title, I think, in that it got us the relationship that we've maintained for the 14 years basically subsequent. When we started the company, we had a very clear vision for the style of company we wanted to have. We knew that we didn't want to try and make 3 games at once. We've been very, very focused on focus. We really wanted that single company, single project focus. We also wanted to be as small as we could be to make frontline console games. We didn't want to make sort of fringe titles, but we also didn't want to grow the company. We didn't have visions of running a 100-person company. Of course, that's what we're doing now, but it's 15 years later. I think we've always felt like character action games were what we loved. We knew we didn't want to make sports games or driving games or first-person shooters. Character action games are what inspired us when we were players and has continued to inspire us as game makers. Well, Sly 3 was the shortest game we ever made. We made that game in under 12 months from start to finish. We'd come off Sly 2, which for me was my favorite game of that series. We'd kind of built on Sly 1 and built these kind of hubs and really been able to develop kind of the experience of moving through the environment more than a linear progression kind of in the first Sly game. So Sly 3, we were rushing, number one, and we were growing at the same time. So it was a real challenge for us to get all that done in 11 and a half months. Sort of the other side of the coin, though, is that it was a neat experience to build a game that quickly. We certainly have not approached the fastest game I think we've made subsequent to that was a 2-year project. I think we knew that we were going to transition off the platform and off the IP, and so when you're finishing a series, a lot of times you have this kind of sense of, I want to get it done so we can get to something new, but I don't really think that we had that in that case. I think we really loved that IP so much that it was a little maybe bittersweet for us. It wasn't, the urgency to get something new. It was like, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss this time.
I would love to go back and make another kid-friendly game. One of my big heroes in life is Jim Henson. And the Muppets are a really big deal for me, and that kind of like that joy that they brought the viewer, but also the way the characters would interact with each other and just kind of make trouble for one another, but in a really kind of brotherly way. Sure. I just think that's like reality made out of felt. It's awesome.
While it's fun to live and stay with your family, it's useful to move and it's useful to go somewhere new and have new experiences. And I think that was something that we were pretty clear on, that we knew we were going to do Sly 3 and then we were going to go do new IP.
Oh, here we go. That was badass!
That project was a relatively long project. I think it was 3 years. 3.5 maybe on the first Infamous. I remember when we had pitched the budget to Sony, we said, hey, we think this is about how much money it's going to cost, and that probably to you guys is a 2-year product. We would like to actually stay smaller during the entire thing and make it a 3-year project because we think that'll fit us better during the transition. And again, it reflects kind of our belief that we'd rather have a smaller focus team than hey, how do we capitalize on this? The PlayStation 3 is shipping, we got to be ready.
We were really proud of Infamous, right? Because we made an open world game with not a huge team, and it was about an experience we wanted to give people, that kind of interactive superhero origin story. But on Sly, the thing that really kind of kept us going is in the kitchen we would have this wall of letters from kids, these kind of like letters to Bentley about their experience, and they would do these hand drawings of the characters in crayon. It was awesome.
It must have been kind of fun for you guys then to play Thieves in Time.
It was absolutely spectacular.
How involved were you guys? Did you see it in progress?
Oh, the Sanzara guys deserve all the credit for that game. I mean, Nate and myself visited them one day in middle of their production, and it was, I think, mostly a fun day. It wasn't like we were giving them notes. It was like we told them what we saw, and it's useful when in any situation when you're working on something. I think it's very hard to be objective about your own work. In the same way that a golfer needs a coach who can actually just see what their swing looks like. We maybe at best played that role of an interested person who can say, hey, this is what we saw having worked in this universe for a while. This is what jumps out to us, for good and for bad. And to the extent that was useful, you'd have to ask them. But it was a fun day. It's a strange experience playing that game because we know the characters and we know the actors so well, and here's a whole bunch of content that we weren't involved in the creation of, and so it was kind of it was a neat experience. We were purchased just after we released Infamous 2.
What were those discussions like?
Lengthy. I don't think there was any urgency for us or for Sony. We'd been approached, from time to time over the 15-year history of our company to work with other partners, and I think that we saw the sizes of teams continuing to grow year over year, and increasingly as a one-team shop, you feel increasingly exposed. You feel the weight of the 100 families that depend on us being in business. As a heavier and heavier burden as the number of team members grows. And so we approached Sony, I think we'd been talking on and off for 2 years about it. And it finally seemed like the right time for them and the right time for us. And so we were happy to do it. And I think central to that, again, going back to our core values, wasn't that we felt like, hey, this was the moment we could cash out at all. This was the chance to stay working with the people who we felt gave us the best chance to make great games. We've always appreciated and believed in the support that we get from the product development team in Foster City, and the idea of working with them for years to come was very, very, very central to our decision to get acquired by Sony. We formed the studio to do frontline work, and I think that's where we're going to stay. I think we really believe that there's good stories yet to tell and great titles to build in this space. It's still, I think, an incredibly central part of our philosophy is to try and keep this to the point where we're all kind of in it together. We all understand the vision and are working towards a shared goal, and that's important to us in the company that we run.